Moving to his left laterally, chased, holding it, and gets out of bounds and up the sideline. He's not out of bounds yet. He's at the 10, inside the 10, he dives for the end zone. Touchdown, Kansas City. A remarkable acrobatic scramble on a 27-yard run. Maybe the best play yet of Patrick Mahomes' incredible young career.
Rumbling, stumbling, bumbling on 101, the Fox Chief Radio Network, as the Chiefs punch their ticket to Super Bowl 54 with a 35-24 win over the Titans. They snap a 49-season drought without a Super Bowl appearance, which was the fourth longest drought in the NFL. Kansas City shut down Derrick Henry, who ran for just 69 yards on the ground. Mahomes threw for 3 more touchdowns, which now puts him at 11 in the postseason for his career, tying Kurt Warner for the most touchdown passes in a player's first 4 playoff games in NFL history. Joining them in this year's Super Bowl, your San Francisco 49ers. They beat the Packers 37-20 in the NFC Championship game. They are just the 3rd team to reach the Super Bowl after winning 4 or fewer games the previous season. The 49ers running back Raheem Mostert carved the Packers up for 220 yards on the ground, the second most rushing yards in a postseason game all time, behind Eric Dickerson's 248 yards versus Dallas in '86. And some tennis for you. Naomi Osaka, Serena Williams, and Coco Gauff all win their opening matches in the Australian Open. Serena is now 73-1 in opening matches at majors in her career. As for the other Williams sister, Venus, she lost to Coco Gauff. The 15-year-old Gauff is the 4th woman over the last 30 years to win 6 or more major matches before her 16th birthday, alongside Jennifer Capriati, Martina Hingis, and Magdalena Maleva.
Sports Center brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Straight Talk Wireless runs on the same 4G LTE networks for up to half the cost. Get the unlimited plan with up to 25 gigs of high-speed data, then 2G for just $45 a month. No contract. Straight Talk Wireless is only at Walmart.
The long wait is over.
Kansas City is the AFC champion. They are headed to Miami for Super Bowl 54.
The Kansas City Chiefs were the more physical football team.
Hail! Hail to the king of the Chiefs kingdom forever.
Bringing that trophy back here. Wow. How great is that?
We're so grateful to get this win for him. This for Coach Reed, no doubt.
Last year, we were 4 inches short, and the guys made it a point to get better than that 4 inches.
All right, Golic and Wingo here with you. Glad you're with us. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. The Australian Open is going on ESPN2. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests joining us this morning on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. But it is time for some Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. So we do have polar opposites in how these teams are going to get there and how they got to Super Bowl 54 and how they expect to win. For example, Patrick Mahomes threw the ball 35 times and was also the leading rusher for the Kansas City Chiefs in their win in the AFC Championship game. He's been the leading rusher in both of their playoff wins this year, which shows you that dislocated knee is just fine now. Thank you very much. On the other side, you have Jimmy G, who threw 8 passes in the NFC title game over the Green Bay Packers. And just so people understand, not only is it the fewest ever in championship game history, only 3 other times have there been fewer pass attempts in a playoff game in Super Bowl history. Miami threw it 7 times in their Super Bowl 8 win.
Yeah.
They threw it 6 times in that same postseason in 1973 in a divisional game against the Raiders. And then in 1935,
wow,
Detroit threw it 5 times against the Giants. So we're talking about them doing something that we haven't seen in this kind of postseason success in a long time.
Again, we are dealing with 2 of the best at what they do. They just happen to be polar opposites.
Correct.
The Chiefs, 73% of their yards through the air this postseason. The Niners, 71% of theirs on the ground this postseason. You mentioned Jimmy Garoppolo. He's thrown 25 passes this postseason. Patrick Mahomes has thrown 20-plus in each first half this postseason. Patrick Mahomes has 14 touchdowns of 20-plus yards, including the postseason this year. The Niners have only given up 13 completions of 20-plus yards. And Patrick Mahomes, you mentioned, is their leading rusher. He's got 106 yards in the postseason right now. The Niners have 2 different 100-yard rushers during this postseason run, including what we saw from Raheem Mostert yesterday. So you could not have teams doing it farther apart. And yeah, they can come together on one common ground, which is they might have the 2 best tight ends in football.
They have not only arguably the 2 best tight ends in football, they have the 2 tight ends in football who will give us the best sound bites of all time, and we are here for it, by the way. For example, for those that didn't see, George Kittle, the Niners tight end in his post-game press conference, was wearing a T-shirt the T-shirt was a picture of one Jimmy Garoppolo. So people are like, yo, bro, what's up with the T-shirt? So here's George Kittle explaining.
Oh, no. So you remember Jimmy had a T-shirt with my face in his locker, and he told everyone I sent it to him. I got this in my locker the same day. I just didn't show you guys because I was saving it for a special occasion. So I think it's pretty good. He even signed it.
He even signed it.
It's a picture of Jimmy at the combine shirtless and looking pretty buff. So obviously this has been going on.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to look any other way.
And obviously Kittle didn't have to be a big part of this game when there's only 8 passes thrown, 6 completions. He caught 1 of them. It was Deebo Samuel caught 3 of them. So
he didn't have his first catch until the 4th quarter.
He didn't, but let me tell you where he was. That man can block.
Wait, I was told he wasn't a good blocker by someone. Not a good blocker, I believe, was the exact line that someone who's supposed to know these things said.
You don't think a lot of times it's a receiving tight end and you also have a blocking tight end. He's one of the rare in the game today that can do both. Can attach to the tackle, be a blocker, can be out like a wide receiver in a slot and be a pass catcher. But he is hell on wheels as a blocker.
Yeah, ironically, it's him and probably T.J. Hawkinson.
Yeah.
Who, what do they have in common? 3 words: Hawkeye pride.
That's exactly right. These Iowa because normally they're you see offensive linemen. Tight ends go to offensive linemen or vice versa. I mean, it's incredible what they do there.
Yeah, you say usually the job of the offensive coordinator is to cover up the weaknesses of the parts that you have on there or to maximize the strength. Do what the Patriots always do. Put people in positions to win. George Kittle can win however you need him to.
Correct.
Him and Kyle Juszczyk being able to win on the edge is why the running game works for them.
By the way, shout out to Harvard, 2 Harvard tight ends in the conference championship games. Ferkser for Tennessee Titans.
Caught a teeter.
And Juszczyk for the 49ers. By the way, here's more on the T-shirt from George Kittle on Scott Van Pelt last night.
And I'd start with the Super Bowl, but your shirt makes that impossible. Help us understand what it is that we're looking at there, George.
I just wanted to give Jimmy a special present after we won the NFC Championship game. He even signed it for me, though, so just make Jimmy all the hard work that he's put in for the last couple of years. He's been in the league and how it's all come to this. So just want to let him know I'm proud of him.
Well, that's him at the combine? Is that what that is?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. Someone sent me this during the week, and so I just saved it, and I didn't tell anybody about it until the night.
Understood.
So it's just been sitting in my locker. But yeah, this just showed up in my locker like on Monday. It's awesome.
So there he was explaining the T-shirt.
Do you feel, though, like they're trying to have to build up Jimmy G? I mean, Jimmy G threw 8 passes into this game. There were 24 minutes of actual game time that passed between passes, which turned out to be, about an hour and a half?
Hour and a half.
Are they trying to build him up, say, yeah, Jimmy, no, Jimmy, seriously, we think you're pretty good here, okay?
You know what? He seems remarkably comfortable in his role in all this. I would be, too, when the rest of my team is this good. But even last night, when they're getting ready to present the trophy at the end, Terry Bradshaw kind of takes the easy shot at him and says, get up here, your arm can't be that sore. You threw 8 passes.
Oh.
And Jimmy gets up there, and he is loving in this moment. This Niners team, and you could say this about a lot of these teams that got to this point, seems incredibly close and seems to understand who they are.
Exactly. And before we move on to the other tight end who also gave us a soundbite, one last thing from George Kittle, who, by the way, just sounds like the most aw-shucks Midwestern guy of all time. And just listen to what happens at the end of this one.
Honestly, it hasn't really hit me yet. Pretty excited. I think tonight's going to be pretty fun. I'm just so happy. Ever since, my rookie year, just the hard work. Coach Shanahan, just the 3 years of, every single day. He always talks to us about how we're this close. Just got to get over it. That was loud. Come on, guys. Be professional.
So something was going on. Something dropped in the background. He just had to drop it into the conversation.
He's got a little country Andrew Luck to him.
I like that.
This is a 5th-round pick in 2017. A 5th-round pick, again, out of Iowa. So you know the toughness, and you see that in the blocking. And we do have the 2 best tight ends in the league. And
they could not be more polar opposites personality-wise.
Smokes.
And by the way, you mentioned Terry Bradshaw throwing in a little dig at Jimmy G. Well, when Jim Nantz was doing the AFC postgame press conference on the field, he actually had Tyrann Mathieu and Travis Kelce up there, and he realized he hadn't asked either one of them a question, and he knew he had to. They're telling him in his ear, go back to the set. Go back. He goes, we got to go back to the set, but guys, I want to acknowledge that Tyrann Mathieu and Travis Kelce here. Tyrann Mathieu said, thank you. And then Travis Kelce said, no, you're not getting away that easy. Grabbed the mic and had his moment.
I'll tell you what, it's been 7 years coming, baby. I learned one thing since I've been here. You gotta fight for your right to
I mean,
it's just so good.
For those that don't remember, this guy had a reality dating show on TV. I mean, he is a piece of work.
He's a reality dating show. He's been doing stuff at Paris Fashion Week before. Like, he's a
awesome.
guy that does a little bit of everything, has a big, loud personality, and is a dynamic route runner and probably the best pass catching tight end in the league.
The route running and pass catching, he'd be right up there at the top. Kittle is the best dual tight end, right? Because he catches obviously a ton of passes, and his blocking. There's no better blocking tight end in the league.
I mean, Kelsey is a willing participant, but Kittle is a much better blocker. I mean, Kelsey is willing to block and called upon will block, but Kittle
wants to.
Kittle likes to get in.
He wants to get his nose in there a little bit.
The difference for Kelsey is the guy he's got throwing in the ball.
That's exactly
right. We talk all about Jimmy Garoppolo throwing the ball 8 times in this last one. Like, Patrick Mahomes now in his first 2 years as a starter has been to the conference championship both years, won one now and is on his way to the Super Bowl, has an MVP, a 50 touchdown, and a 5,000 yard season. Like, this is, again, I know it's his 3rd year in the league. It's his 2nd year as a starter.
Yep.
This is insane because it's not even like it's surprising. It is, we'd be shocked if he wasn't doing this. We'd be disappointed if these weren't the things we were seeing.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up because Amina and I were texting during the game yesterday, and like the throw that kept the drive alive on their first touchdown when they were down 10-0. It was a 3rd down throw to Tyreek Hill. He was on the move, rolling to his right. People draped all over him, and he just slung it out there, and Reek came back and caught the ball. That was an absolutely ridiculous throw that I'm not sure more than 2 quarterbacks could make, and we all just assume, that's what Patrick Mahomes does. He's gotten to the point where we've seen so much, the things that are just ridiculous now we believe are ordinary.
Well, and I think what's going to be interesting about the Super Bowl is the expectation that if times are tough, Pat Mahomes can pull you out of it. What if times are tough for San Francisco? Can Jimmy Garoppolo? And we're going to hang on the fact that he threw 8 passes in this game. But he was in the top 10 in quarterback rating throughout the year. He did throw 27 touchdowns. He did have about a 70% completion percentage during the year. He did have a good year. It's not like he never threw the ball. When we talked about Tannehill, only had like 200 and some pass attempts for the year. Now he only started 12 games. Garoppolo had just under 500. So he did have a good year. They didn't need him in this game, but that's still going to be a fair question because Mahomes is the best at doing this right now. And Jimmy Garoppolo, we've seen snippets of it. Yeah. So that's going to come into the Super Bowl is when times are tough, which quarterback can pull you out?
As we close out Straight Talk, all this Straight Talk brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, everything for less, only at Walmart. The idea that what the Chiefs have done 2 weeks in a row, down 10 twice, down 24, as long as we have Mahomes, we'll be okay. You're not going to be saying that if the Niners find themselves down 10 points, right? You're going to be like, okay, what's
can they come back?
Here? Can they come back here?
It's going to start to get a little dicey, no doubt. The confidence that the Niners can have is they just beat the brakes off Patrick Mahomes 1.0. Like watching. I mean, listen, for people my age, that's what Aaron Rodgers was.
Correct.
He was the original guy doing all these off-platform throws. He was the original guy making those throws, rolling out of the pocket that you shouldn't be able to make. And he still makes a few of those every now and then. But seeing what happened yesterday, just the utter domination by the Niners, made a small, like I had no dog in the fight, but made a small part of me sad because that guy was the untouchable Patrick Mahomes for so long, and it seems like now we're moving further and further away from that.
To your point, one of the staple plays when Aaron Rodgers was at his peak, fake the handoff left, roll out to the right, find Jordy Nelson over the top for a home run. That's exactly what it was. So now let's move on to what we didn't get out of Green Bay, which was a competitive game. Once they were down 27-0, it was ball game. Listen, people are like, it's crazier things have happened. Yes, one time. One time in NFL postseason history, somebody came back for more than 27. It wasn't going to happen at home by the 49ers against that defense. And Aaron Rodgers, after the game, lamenting on the fact that this game was not at Lambeau. It was at Levi Stadium.
I think we're really close. I think we're just a little more consistent performance away from consistently playing with these guys. But we got them at home, their place twice. I've said this before, we got to get one of these at home. It's a different ball game. It's different. Playing in 20-degree weather and snow, cold and wind is a different type of game than playing here.
Yeah, but I think this 49ers team would have been just fine with that. I mean, you look at a team that's built to play in cold and snow.
Yeah, if you can
this
run.
49ers team.
Listen, if you can run and you have that D-line that can play the way they do, I don't think the weather was going to make the difference. And now there's going to be a lot of talk of where are the Green Bay Packers. And I think a lot of negative talk on where they're going to go. And I know, Trey, at least you and I agree. Mike, I'm not sure where you are. I don't think they're that far off.
I agree.
I really do. Look at their 3 regular season losses this year. They lost to Philadelphia. That was a 27-27 game in the fourth quarter. Okay? They lost in California the most this year. They lost out to the LA Chargers.
That was the stunner.
Right.
Yeah.
They were down in that game 19-0 in the third quarter, so they were getting blown out there. And they also lost to the Packers. And in that first game in the regular season, they were down 23-0 in the first half. So they had 13 wins. They got shelled against this team that's going to the Super Bowl. So the 2 times they got shelled, again, the Chargers, they did a bit as well, but they really got shelled in the 2 losses of the 49ers, and this team is going to the Super Bowl. So they were down 23-0 in the regular season in San Francisco, 20-7-0 at halftime of this game. They are another receiver or 2.
Yep, I
right?
agree.
You have Aaron Jones. If that O-line can come back intact, you know that defense is a lot better. So I don't think they're that far off. Understand, 3 losses this year, 4 losses, including this. 2 were blowouts to the team that is going to the Super Bowl.
Correct.
He needs more help. He's not what he was. Don't get me wrong. He's going to the Hall of Fame. He's not what he was, but he's still good enough to lead a better team to the Super Bowl, and he needs more help on offense.
Listen, they did a great job this offseason, the Green Bay did, retooling their defense. They get the 2 Smiths, Preston and Zadarius, which created a huge pressure most of the time off the edge. They got Darnell Savage in the draft, which was absolutely great. He's been incredible for them. So they really addressed everything in the offseason, outside of one offensive lineman. They basically did everything on the defensive side. Now they need to find a couple of more weapons. And I agree. I don't think they're that far away. But then there's this from Aaron Rodgers, and it's really telling because Aaron Rodgers has been beat up the last couple of seasons, and obviously there was a coaching change this offseason. Here was Aaron trying to put sort of in some sort of package, wrap it up in some sort of story, exactly what the 2019 regular season and playoff run meant for Aaron.
The beauty in this sport is it is a true team sport. You're relying on so many other people. As we move into the off season now, the reliance is on guys doing their responsibilities, doing their part to be ready for next season. And who knows what can happen. It's a long year, but this one will always be special because it became fun again.
It became fun again.
Well, I mean,
I have some questions about that.
Well, I mean, how many times have we seen in the last few years guys retiring because they've constantly battled injury and had to deal with all that? And so you take one of the most talented quarterbacks we've ever seen who enjoyed a wealth of success early on, who then had to deal with a bunch of the injury and some frustration with his coach. Like, yeah, of course, I'm sure that wasn't a great time feeling like you had to constantly be the one thing to lift your team up.
Let's be honest, Trey. I mean, he's not a guy I think that. Well, I guess he is a guy that's been around for a long time, is going to the Hall of Fame and likes to do things his way. And if he doesn't get his way to do things, you butt heads. And I think it got stale with McCarthy there.
Yep.
And they started butting heads, and once him and Matt LaFleur worked through the beginning of this, he kind of got to do his thing a little more and didn't have enough weapons for it. And he gets criticized, and rightly so at times. There's no doubt about it, because he isn't playing as well as he's had. But he likes to kind of control what he does, and I think he got back to doing that a little bit this year.
Yeah, listen, he didn't play. He didn't have his best game. The numbers say he was 31 of 39 for 326 yards. But again, the entire second half was a 2-minute drill. I mean, like the entire second half. Once you're up 27-0, the entire second half became a 2-minute drill against the defense. They were going to give you a lot of stuff underneath.
Exactly. Well, quite frankly, it was a reminder they should have been doing that stuff earlier. Aaron Rodgers started this game 7 for 7
for 47
yards.
Exactly.
And took 2 sacks in that time. They were not being nearly aggressive enough in this. And I think if there's an indictment of quarterback and play caller and Matt LaFleur of what they've done this year, it's not being aggressive enough early. And we saw flashes of that in the game before there where they unloaded some of those deep shots, and it wasn't there. But Aaron Rodgers mentioned everybody doing their thing. This is one of the worst complimentary football games you'll ever see. Yeah. In instances where the defense is getting rolled up and can't get a stop when they need it late in this game. The offense is turning it over, the botch snap, the interception from Rodgers. I'll tell you what unit really lost them this game, though, special teams. Special teams
Yes.
were very close in successive runs of special teams. They had they gave up a 26-yard return that got the Niners to midfield. They shanked a punt that let the Niners start the ball from the Packers' 37-yard line, and then on the ensuing kickoff return before the end of the half, bobbled that and ended up inside their own 10-yard line, I believe, as a starting position, which we know stresses offenses in a different way, severely decreases your likelihood of scoring. So all day long, that unit in particular, people call it hidden yardage. There's nothing hidden about it. It's right there. You're talking about in returns, 3 first downs that you're getting back there, putting your defense automatically in a sudden change position on the other end of the field and putting your offense at a disadvantage. That unit in no way, shape, or form held up its own weight the other day.
No, it absolutely did not. And by the way, we're still waiting to find out exactly what the situation is with Tevin Coleman, because it didn't look good when he was carted off the field.
You thought it was, again, upper body, and he couldn't walk off. They had to get the cart. They didn't want to move his shoulder.
I thought it might have been his wrist.
I did as well, but then the way they were holding it, I thought, being on the receiving end of a few shoulder injuries to know. But
they said elbow on the broadcast, right?
Did they?
We're all picking apart.
They said on the broadcast, I heard from the sideline, they said it was elbow.
Okay, so we will find out. But as far as the 7 completions for 40-some yards, that again is what San Francisco was doing defensively, because in the game in the regular season, for the whole game, he had 20 completions, did Aaron Rodgers, for 104 yards.
Yeah.
So the ball was not going downfield.
And again, it just shows you how much Kyle Shanahan believes in this running game, because Tevin Coleman was doing most of the damage early, and then whatever the injury was took him out. And then in steps Mostert, who, by the way, has been cut 7 times. He said before the game he looks at all the dates of all the times he was cut. And he runs for 220 yards. Put that in perspective. Only one player in postseason history has run for more yards in a game than the 220 that Raheem Mostert ran. And that's Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson, who ran for 240-plus in a playoff win over the Cowboys in the 80s.
I almost jokingly tweeted that number out, saying Eric Dickerson shaking in his boots before the AFC game because of Derrick Henry, not thinking later on that Raheem Mostert would be the one to challenge the throne.
Football's fun, man. You never know what you're going to expect, and we have a matchup for the ages in Super Bowl 54. But coming up next, the Titans were riding Derrick Henry all this offseason, and it paid off. Now, will they have to pay him? We'll get into that next. Golic and Wingo.